If I'm a speaker.
And if you look at the trends in funding, you'll see the same thing. So even though it looks like R&D funding has actually increased, when you look at the percentage shares that NSF and federal funding actually goes into applied and experimental research, it's actually decreasing as a share, as a total percentage of the pot. So even though overall funding has increased, the amount that we're actually looking at in experimental or applied research, which is where I live, is actually decreasing. And so then NSF came out with the 10 big ideas: quantum information science and engineering, some very specific instrumentation, mostly data and computer science and the life sciences. And so it's really difficult to find funding. And if you look at an IEEE conference, you'll see that a lot of electrical and computer engineers are actually performing applied and experimental research. And then if you look at the full-time funding of doctoral students by sector, you'll see that the actual percentage of PhD students that are funded, if you see in green, that's institutional. So most institutions, universities are funding more of the PhD students than NSF or government agencies or industry. So unless your institution is willing to actually give you money to fund your PhD student, and if you're applied and experimental like me, then you don't know how to feed your graduate students. And my graduate students cry, they want to be fed, so I have to find money. So interestingly enough, like I say, when I was doing my PhD research, I worked with NASA and NOAA on developing hardware models in FPGAs, right, for remote sensing, for global forecasting models. And so apparently I was already doing convergent research, I just didn't know it. And so in and of itself, convergent research is an NSF big idea, and they're acting like it's like something new, right? But it's really nothing new. It's something that hardware engineers have been doing like all of our lives. Like we go out, we find somebody's application, or somebody comes to us and says, hey, can you do something with my idea, right? Because I don't have access to supercomputers, or I need to send this down a volcano, or I want to put this, on top of a mountain. But convergent research is basically a way of solving problems at the intersection of like several fields. And what happens is when you do that, you learn the language of like the other field. You kind of start to invent new frameworks. You bring like methodologies together that you wouldn't normally have done. And you end up with these like really cool solutions that you wouldn't have thought about before. And NSF is